I never thought I'd know what happens after we take our last breath, until I did. One moment, I was alive, warm in the comfort of my home, and the next, I was hovering above my lifeless body, watching everything from a perspective I didn't know existed. It felt like the world had shifted beneath me, like the rules of reality had suddenly changed, and I was no longer part of it. Time seemed to freeze, the air thick with a silence that felt more alive than any sound I'd ever known. I wasn't scared, at least not at first, but then I saw it. Something waiting, watching, pulling me toward a place I never imagined I'd see. What I'm about to tell you is something I never believed could happen, but it did, and it changed everything. Before that night, I was just like anyone else, busy, distracted, and caught up in the routines of everyday life. I didn't spend much time thinking about what comes after we're gone. To me, death was just an end. No tunnels of light, no angels or demons, just silence, nothingness. I was a realist, maybe even a skeptic. I worked hard, loved my family, and worried about the usual things: bills, work deadlines, making sure there was food on the table. But deep down, I always felt a certain emptiness, a nagging feeling that I couldn't quite explain. I'd push it away, telling myself it was just stress or exhaustion. If someone had told me back then that there was more to life than what we could see or touch, I would have smiled politely and changed the subject. After all, who has time to think about such things when there's a world full of responsibilities waiting for you? Looking back now, I realize how much I avoided the questions that really mattered. Questions about purpose, meaning, and the soul. But life has a way of forcing you to face the truths you'd rather ignore. And for me, that moment came suddenly, without warning, in a way I could never have imagined. It started like any other evening. I had just settled into my favorite chair, the soft hum of the TV in the background, my mind drifting through the trivial worries of the day. But then, out of nowhere, a sharp, unrelenting pressure gripped my chest. It wasn't like anything I'd felt before. It was as if life itself was slipping through my fingers. I gasped for air, but the room around me blurred, the edges folding into a heavy, suffocating darkness. And then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my chair anymore. I was weightless, suspended in a stillness that felt both eerie and strangely peaceful. Below me, I saw myself, my body, limp and unresponsive, my face pale, as if the life had already drained from it. Panic surged through me. Was this it? Was I dead? I tried to scream, to cry out for help, but no sound came. Instead, a light began to grow, faint at first, then blindingly bright. It wasn't like any light I'd ever seen. Warm, pure, and alive, as though it was calling me towards something far greater than I could understand. The room faded, replaced by a vast, infinite expanse. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, like standing at the edge of a universe I was never meant to see. And in that moment, I realized I had crossed over. This wasn't a dream. This was real. As I floated in that infinite expanse, a presence began to take form before me, indescribably radiant, yet not blinding. It was as though the very essence of love and power had taken shape. The figure wasn't just there, it filled the space, commanding it, transforming it into something sacred and untouchable. I felt every emotion at once: awe, fear, and an overwhelming sense of being seen, truly seen, in a way I had never known before. It wasn't just my actions being laid bare, but my very soul. The figure's voice wasn't loud, yet it resonated deep within me, like it was etched into the core of my being. "Do not be afraid," they said, their tone gentle yet firm. "Your journey is not over, but there are truths you must understand before you return." Around us, the space shifted. It wasn't empty anymore. Scenes unfolded like living memories, some my own, others not. I saw paths illuminated with light and others shrouded in shadow, all leading to different ends. The figure reached out a hand, inviting me closer. What you see is the journey of the soul, the choices, the consequences, the connection to something greater than yourself. I wanted to ask questions, to demand answers, but in their presence, I felt humbled, like a child standing before something far beyond comprehension. They didn't need to explain. Somehow I already knew. This wasn't a place of judgment, it was a place of understanding, a glimpse into the infinite threads that bind us all. And yet, I could feel there was more to come. Something profound, something that would change everything I thought I knew about life, death, and the space in between. The figure guided me through what felt like an endless tapestry of light and shadow, each thread pulsating with life and meaning. I saw choices, not just mine, but humanity's, stretching through time like rivers carving through the earth. Every decision, no matter how small, rippled outward, touching others in ways I had never considered. And then it hit me. Life wasn't about perfection or success, it was about connection. The love we give, the kindness we show, even the struggles we endure. All of it mattered. Every thread of light represented an act of selflessness, a moment of grace. But the shadows, they came from fear, anger, and neglect, weaving patterns of isolation and pain. The figure turned to me, their eyes holding a depth that seemed to pierce through the fabric of existence itself. "Do you see now?" they asked. "Your life is not a series of random events. It is part of something greater, something eternal. What you do with it shapes not just your path, but the world around you." Suddenly, the tapestry shifted. I saw faces. People I had hurt, people I had helped, and people I had never even noticed. Their lives were intertwined with mine in ways I couldn't have imagined. The weight of it was overwhelming, yet there was also a strange sense of hope. It wasn't too late. My choices still held power. As I stood there, watching the threads of my life and the lives of others, the figure's voice resonated again. This is what awaits. Not judgment, but understanding. Not punishment, but the chance to choose again, to walk in light, and to help others do the same. For the first time, I felt the enormity of it all. Not as a burden, but as an opportunity. My life wasn't just mine. It was a gift, a chance to leave behind a legacy of love and purpose. The revelation was simple, yet profound. Every moment matters. Every soul matters. And what awaits us isn't an end. It's a beginning. With a sudden jolt, it felt like I was being pulled backward, as though gravity had reclaimed me after an eternity of weightlessness. The light began to fade, and the figure's presence dissolved into the distance, though their words echoed in my mind. "Remember what you have seen." I gasped for air, my chest heaving, as though I had just surfaced from deep underwater. My eyes shot open, and I found myself back in my body, back in the world I thought I had left behind. The room was dimly lit, the faint beep of a monitor the only sound breaking the silence. I was alive, but everything felt different. My body felt heavy, unfamiliar, as if I were wearing a suit of armor that didn't quite fit. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what I'd just experienced. The tears came before I could stop them, streaming down my face as I tried to make sense of it all. The world around me looked the same, sterile walls, the hum of hospital machinery, but I was no longer the same. Every sound, every detail seemed sharper, more vivid, as if life had been painted with a brighter palette. But with that clarity came a question. How could I go back to living the way I had before? How could I carry the weight of the truths I'd seen while surrounded by the trivialities of this world? In that moment, I realized the real struggle wasn't in dying. It was in living again, knowing what I now knew. I had been given a second chance, not to escape life's challenges, but to face them with purpose, with love, and with the unshakable certainty that every breath mattered. Since that day, I've looked at life through a completely different lens. I don't fear death anymore, but I've come to understand something far more daunting, the fear of wasting the time I've been given. Each breath feels sacred now, Each moment an opportunity to create light in a world that often feels so dark. I've learned that life isn't about perfection, it's about intention. It's about how we choose to love, how we forgive, and how we show kindness in the face of adversity. It's about being present, truly present, with the people we care about, and even with strangers who may need a simple smile to brighten their day. But more than anything, I have realized that our actions ripple outward in ways we can't always see. Every word we speak, every decision we make, shapes not just our lives, but the lives of those around us. I share my story not because I want to preach or persuade, but because I believe that what I saw wasn't meant for me alone. It was a reminder, a call to all of us to live with purpose, to connect with each other, and to seek something greater than ourselves. So, I leave you with this. Reflect on your life, not with guilt or regret, but with a desire to grow, to love, and to leave behind a legacy of light. Because if there's one thing I know now, it's that every choice matters, and what awaits us after this life isn't just an end. It's the continuation of a story we're writing every single day. The question is, how will you write yours?